evening, good morning, and good afternoon, or whatever time you're watching this. I much appreciate it. We're going to run this build. We have the Battle Maul and Slap Shield with Thunder Strike and Confidence Strike with 25% damage to infested and carapace armored enemies. We have the Kickback with 25% damage to Maniacs, Terrifying Barrage, and Full Bore. 3 health curios. And we have Furious, Smash 'em, Heavyweight, Linchpin, Best Defense, Big Friendly Rock, Slam, Loyal Protector, Valuable Distraction, Big Lungs, Batter, Hard Knocks, Stay Close, Attention Seeker, Payback Time, Bruiser, Get Stuck In, No Pushover, Won't Give In all 4 stacks to Feel No Pain. Now, if you wanted to, you could definitely get, if you wanted to replace Linchpin with Towering Presence, if you just had to take away, like, another thing, like, Payback Time or Bruiser is pretty sacrificable. No Pushover is probably pretty good to get. Like, you can sacrifice that one pretty good if you wanted to get Towering Presence, or even if you just sacrifice the Bleed. Honestly, Bleed and then Linchpin, you can obviously get Towering Presence. But I think the Bleed is just pretty necessary on the shield, just because it adds a little. You have so much cleave with it, you might as well have the Bleed with it anyway. Anyway, that's the build running. Let's get into a game, shall we? I swear to God, if I get the one low-intensity Vent Purge mission, I'm going to lose it. But I digress. That doesn't really fit here. Anyway, I saw Godzilla today. The new one. Godzilla and Kong. Forgotten Kingdom, whatever. Godzilla x Kong. I liked it. I liked it a lot. It's a big, fun monster movie. You know how it is. It's a Godzilla film that doesn't really have a message. Other than big monkey. Okay, cool. It's just a regular old session. It's definitely more of a Kong film than a Godzilla film because I think it's easier to have Kong act than Godzilla, right? You still get plenty of Godzilla though, so I will be mentioning spoilers this video, so be warned. But I will try to mention that I'm about to say a spoiler. Like, this is without spoiler. It's, as I said, it's definitely more of a Kong film in a way, more than Godzilla. You still get plenty of Godzilla. And basically, the story can be pretty much devised as... Kong's story is Kratos and Atreus from God of War. And then Godzilla's story is the Doomslayer. Godzilla pretty much goes around killing Titans because he's preparing for a big fight. And obviously he's Godzilla, so he's gonna go around beating the shit out of Titans. Slight spoiler. So, Godzilla in the film, his whole thing is that there's a distress call and it's activating Godzilla. It's making him like go wacky. It's not really wacky, but it's like making him fight to prepare to fight. Which is fine, right? That's okay. It's a good concept. It's not an uncommon concept too. Godzilla's answered distress call type situations before. And he goes on and he kills the Titan Tiamat to essentially take her spot, and this spot that gets a bunch of solar radiation in it. Essentially, he's charging up. My only issue is that this evolved, which is why Godzilla is pink, by the way, if you were wondering. My only issue with it is that at no point in the film did I think that this evolved form of Godzilla was any stronger. And it just felt like kind of an excuse to make Godzilla pink, which is fine. But they didn't really do a good job of trying to make it seem scarier. Like, even like the cool big beam scene wasn't as like... Compared to thermonuclear Godzilla from King of Monsters, it's like, okay. Also, I love Shima. I love Shima so much. Spoiler for Shima. She's another Titan, or another like lizard Titan like Godzilla. Oh, she's great. She's a big old puppy dog. She's also fucking huge. She's bigger than Godzilla. Like, she's actually so big, but Godzilla was still throwing hands with her because he does not give a fuck. And there was a spoilers for the end of the movie. There's a really funny scene where Shima sort of breaks free of Scar King, the other monkey's control. And Shima has a moment of like contemplating what they're about to do, and they turn their head and they see Godzilla like tweaking out in their direction, like, come on, I want you to do it. Come on, do something stupid. And Shima chose the wise decision and decided to help Kong fight Scar King, so Godzilla didn't. So she didn't have to keep fighting Godzilla, which is an absolutely reasonable response, and I think any level-headed Titan would make the same decision. But yeah, the fight scenes in those movies were so fucking cool. Like, I love the Kong is such a cool, like, he's got a beard. That's so sick. My only complaint about the film, because it's not a movie that... There are two types of Godzilla films. There's the one where you go in and you know you're going to get, like, a message. And then there's the one where you go in where you want to see Godzilla drop kick a monster. Right? And this is one of those films where you go in to see Godzilla drop kick someone. And he does. He drop kicks someone. I was hitting my G button. For some reason it wasn't working. But music is a very important part to the Godzilla films, and it felt like the music in this film was a lot weaker than every other film. There was no, like, Kong theme, really, no Godzilla theme. There wasn't really a mix between the two. It didn't really even sound like Shimo or Scar King had their own, like, super unique themes either. Which is a shame, a true shame. Mothra kind of had her theme. Oh, spoilers, I guess Mothra's in there, but she's in the trailer, so is that much of a spoiler? Maybe. Yeah. Like, the music was definitely the weakest part of the film, which is a shame. But I still think I like King of Monsters a little more. Maybe it's because it's like, the one issue is like, there's a few plot holes in this movie as well that you kind of, it's like, that are easy to ignore for the sake of ignoring. But I think the issue is like trying to tell stories that involve like Godzilla, like multiple kaiju in depthly is like a lot harder than like having Godzilla body some no names and then the big bad, you know. Especially when like Kong is like such Kong has like a really big connection with the human character, so you're obviously going to see a lot of human characters there. Which is fine, right? Like the lore they're setting up for the MonsterVerse is obviously the great apes were defenders of humanity. Also, it's really funny in this movie how like in the Hollow Earth all the monsters seem normal, so, like don't seem that big, and then you go to the real world, it's like, oh right, Godzilla's bigger than the pyramids. Got it. Yeah. And I will say one thing about, I love the Godzilla films of the MonsterVerse, and I'm so glad that they fixed their lighting issue. Like, I don't know if you've ever seen Godzilla 2014, but that movie is fucking impossible to look at. It's so dark.
Are you done? No. Then quiet.
It's like, it's so dark and it's so hard to see. And whenever I see people talking about it, there's always these fuckers like, oh, in the theater it looked fine. It was just the home release that was the issue. 90% of the people that are going to watch this film are watching it home release. Why is it okay? It looked okay in the theaters, but looked terrible in the home release. The movie was dark. It's not a fun movie to watch at home because you can't goddamn see. Like, it's Godzilla is a dark gray monster fighting black monsters. You know, like, come on now. like, oh my god, like, lighting in movies is such a, like, I hate it whenever a movie's just unfathomably dark. Like, people are always like, oh, well, if it's really bright at night, people, like, will fall out of immersion or whatever. I'm like, I'm here to watch a giant lizard that shoots atomic breaths out of its mouth fight giant bugs. I've already suspended my, you know, my belief in reality. I've left the realm of reality long ago. And you are trying to drag me back into it with this dark, goddamn, visually unpleasant movie. Yeah, so I'm so glad, because, like, primarily the movie mostly takes place in the Hollow Earth, but the times we do see the human world is it's in the middle of the goddamn day. They go to Rio de Janeiro. Well, no, except in France. In France it was at night, but when Godzilla goes to the other side of the world, obviously it's daytime. Side spoiler: Godzilla goes to France. Also, once again, I love Shimo. Shimo's such a good puppy dog. Like, spoilers, as I said earlier, how Shimo helps Kong out. Shimo is literally the dog that Dad said he didn't want. Like, it's great. He gets head scritches at the end. It's wonderful. But man, I got the most unlucky seat to the theater. Because online, like, it said it was a pretty full theater, so like, oh man, it's full. So I was able to find 4 in a row since I was going with 4 people. Literally, the theater was fairly, it wasn't like empty, but like it wasn't as full as it said it was going to be. And literally, the majority of the residents within the theater was on the row I was in. It was actually so sad. Oh, that guy died. He just died of Ebola. He died of lumbago. Bad. Hello. Fall over, would you please? Yeah, if you want a 2-hour movie of just pure unadulterated fun, go watch Godzilla and Kong. Ow, I was drinking my tea, you bastard. I'm gonna go heal. No, I'm not. It's all used up. Also, I played D&D today. D&D started off with my ranger having a sort of nightmare, dream, hallucination, vision thing. Where to read it out as I remember it, was. I'll just read it out. You find yourself, as you sort of drift off to sleep, you find yourself almost... Oh, whoops. I messed up my whole rotation of buttons, and now I'm suffering with it. Hello, Jukes, nerd. And you find yourself waking up in an emerald field, a beautiful roiling hills of grass, and just as far as the eye can see. I've been grabbed. And as you hear this, you see on a dock, you see this old man singing as he casts his fish out. There's no lyrics to understand. It's pure vocal only. But it's a beautiful song about love, loss, and longing. But as he sings, a red lightning bolt strikes the ground around him, and a rock spreads throughout the grass. Oh god, I've been in the theater, my brain is functioning improperly. And the man, although rotting away as the lightning strikes him, his flesh falling off his body, his bones turning to dust, he's still singing his song. And scene changes and you're looking at a dragon. And the dragon is rearing its wings into the sky and roaring in defiance as this storm approaches her home. And then the scene changes again, and you see Thrasher, which is the cleric's NPC, falling. And before you can reach out and grab her, the scene switches again. And now you see that you are in the air, the dragon itself, screeching in defiance as you breathe your fiery breath into the sky to no avail against... Hello? What are you doing, Fred? In defiance, and you breathe fire into the sky, and the sheen changes again. Now, I don't know if my player picked up on this, and I'll explain it after. But you're in a rotting field, and the only other animal there is a deer. A family of deer. And it's out of place how normal the deer are acting. Then the buck looks at you, and its jaw falls off. You hear its body creak and distend as its bones stretch, ribs pierce its flesh, as its face melts away, revealing the skull underneath, and it's like screeching this unrotting, disgusting screech at you. But before it can attack you, 2 arrows hit it in the neck, killing it. The figure you see is wrapped in a cloak, and the only thing you can see are intense green eyes. The ranger has green eyes, and a flock of bright white hair. The cleric, as aforementioned, has the bright white hair. So I don't know if my ranger picked up on that. I'd like to think he did, but I don't know. He did pick up on something else I was putting down throughout the whole, like, a fight that they had. Where it was like he kept feeling this, like, because the dragon scale he harvested, I'd essentially, like, iterated throughout the whole session and session 4 is that dragons don't play by the rules, so always expect the unexpected with the dragon. And as he, he essentially absorbed the dragon, and I gave him an item that he kept secret from the other parties. I DM'd it to him. It's an item that will evolve as the story goes on. It's called Dragon's Soul, and he has that now. And he picked up on that, but I don't know if he picked up on the thing of, like, me implying that it's a scene into the future and he's looking at potentially a child of his and the clerics. And during the combat, they were fighting a somewhat homebrewed monster that I stole some of the other stuff from. Initially, I had a +7 to attack, but I had forgotten my player's ACs, and the highest AC I had was 16, which is, like, you say is pretty high, but also, like, originally I thought it was 13 because my players hadn't counted the armor they were wearing, and honestly, that's my bad. I should have been more careful with it. So their ACs are up to more normal now. Like, the Rangers got the 16 AC, or Warlocks got 16 AC. Artificer's got his AC up. It's like to 13 now. The Rangers' AC's up to 14, so things are more normal as they should be. But anyways, so I dropped the +7 to a +4. So they were still hitting. That means they would still hit majority of the time if things were going intended. But I swear to God, for the first 3 rounds of combat, I didn't get a single hit in on any of the player characters. I got a hit on the NPC robot that I play to help them fight in combat. It was actually so brutal. The enemies would heal HP on their turn. If they didn't take fire or radiant damage, which stops their healing. And, you know, fight starts off going great. Immediately, almost immediately, a nat 20 on the damage. And one of them is reduced by half. Because they did radiant damage, and these monsters are weak to radiant damage, so they take double damage from radiant. And because it was a blistering smite or whatever from my artificer, and I was like, oh boy. Yeah, even so, the fight wasn't looking too hot. All the abhorrents, which is the enemy I called them, were still up, and they're still swinging. And my warlock wasn't looking super damaged, but you know, pretty roughed up. And then my ranger was looking real messed up. And the whole large portion of the fight was like implying that if they had used the cleric's item of prayer, which is her guitar, and like essentially literally just placed it in her hands, or break her out of like the possession she was going under through, as like these monsters were sort of surrounding her. She would wake up and help, but she'd start with like a full heal, so like Miles would be healed to full, right? And they'd, you know, lose all negative debuffs, and it would have been like a cool halfway point. But my warlock, now the cleric worships Elise, the god of rebellion in this world. My warlock's patron is Elise's literal shadow. So my warlock picked up the guitar and said, "Can I try to play it?" And like kind of as sort of as a goof, but also had to make a check to realize it's a very powerful like religious artifact. And he's like, "Oh yeah, sure, okay." He played it nat 20. Now he was gonna get a high roll anyway. He has a +5 to his charisma. He's a warlock, right? They're charisma based, right? And he has proficiency in performance. So I had him roll the performance. Natural goddamn 20. And because the warlock's patron is who it is, I was like, okay, well I gotta honor this nat 20 the coolest way I can. So he plays this sick ass goddamn riff. It does a bunch of damage to the surrounding enemies and removes their ability to heal permanently, and makes the Constitution saving throw my players would have had to make upon getting hit from a 15 to a 10. And that turned the fight pretty well, because then my players started rolling good, or better on their damage dice rolls. Also, my ranger didn't realize he had 2 attacks and would add his dexterity modifier to the damage rolls. I always thought he, like, because I told him to do that before, so I assumed he always would, and was just really rolling really poor. I mean, he only does 1d8 at the moment, right? But yeah, he has an attachment to his bow that lets him add his proficiency bonus to the attack roll and the damage. So he has like a +5 now, or like a +6 or something, some crazy number. Yeah. Hello. Alright, we're good. Gotta throw a rock at him sometimes. So yeah, he rolled this sick ass nat 20. He essentially turned the fight around, and they cleaned up. And it was a really cool moment too, because it was like you hear in your, like, I'm gonna do my cringe warlock patron voice here in your head. Let's rock. And a cool ass like symbol, like Halo fire appeared. It was just like, oh, it was so cool. And then at the end, as I was playing Thresher, she's like, I heard someone play the guitar when I was sort of possessed. Who was that? That was amazing. Because she's like a rock and roll girl, obviously. And my warlock, with the G hookup, pointed at the ranger who's currently crushing on the cleric. I was like, it was him. Aced his goddamn deception check because he's obviously a warlock, and just and hooked my brother up. And then I was having a discussion with Ranger. I was like, make perception on yourself, make perception on Thrasher, because he was telling Thrasher about his dream. Because obviously she was in danger at some point in the dream, so he wanted to let her know and see if she as a cleric could have offer any guidance to it. And he rolled an insight against himself and against her. Himself, he rolled like pretty poorly. He had a nat 20 on her, and I had a very like sort of romantic telling of her about her. And he managed to pick up that once again, dragons don't play by the rules. The scale that he had disappeared. It wasn't taken. He's had this sort of weird feeling in his gut the whole day that wasn't indigestion. And he sort of picked up on it, and I DM'd him the description of it, and he kept it a secret from his party, so that's going to be very fun. Now, the whole plan is that like he's eventually going to like unlock more powers of the dragon, as this dragon essentially like... The dragons in this world exist in both magic and material realms, so they don't play by the rules. When a dragon dies, they don't really die, they just go do something else. Like sometimes they'll become a tree or a frog, or sometimes they'll give a human power to help save nature. But yeah, and also my artificer got some cool stuff with his missing grandfather done. It was very, very, very fun. I also got to play a big robot. Love it. It was a very, very good session. Very good session. But that is it for this session of recording. If you made this far in the video, thank you for watching. Like and subscribe, or don't. I'm not your mother, but you better brush your teeth. Now have a good one. Bye-bye.